Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. Today, I've got a very special guest. I am excited to have an old friend of mine back on the show. And I'm excited to get to offer up his insights to everyone out there. And so, welcome to the show, Luke.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah,
Appreciate
man.
it.
So, Luke Hoffmann was born and raised in Dubuque, Iowa, where he still resides today with his wife, Morgan, and their three kids, Lexi, 12, Isaac, 8, and Ryan, 6. They do all things in life as a family, from business to homeschooling to vacations. He started in real estate in 2017 at the same time as purchasing a business and quitting his W 2. He and Morgan found their passion in buy and hold real estate and sold off the business in 2019 and dove headfirst into REI. Since then, they have purchased small multifamily commercial properties, self storage, wholesaled, and flipped. They are continuing to purchase small multifamily and single family BRRR projects while also running a construction business focusing on government contracts. Their goal was and still is to continually add cash flow that allows their family the freedoms to do what they want, when they want, and how they want. Welcome, man. This is exactly, reading your bio. I'm thinking I've been watching your show, everything you're doing on Facebook, so it makes total sense. You are on the go all the time.
That's what we try to be. Always a new project.
You just got back from a 68-day vacation.
82.
Wow, what was that like?
It was good. We so the last 4 years we left for the winter. So we're in Iowa as well. So I mean, it's cold. I hate the cold. So we typically in the past we'd go to Florida, Arizona, all the typical snowbird spots. But this year, kind of went out on a limb a little further and convinced my wife, kind of twist her arm a little bit. Like, let's go overseas for a while. So we spent 3 months traveling New Zealand, Australia, Thailand, Mexico, Florida, Alabama. We went to Utah at the beginning, I guess, as well. So we did a whole loop around the world because when we flew through on the way back, we went the opposite direction on the way. So we did completely an entire loop around the world.
I just really want to know. I saw you were on a boat for like an entire week, and you said something about I'm excited to finally have a shower. Like, you're stranded on this boat. Did you bring any food on, or were you just like fishing and that's all you could eat? Was if you sucked at fishing, you couldn't eat the whole week, or what happened with that?
No, I suck at fishing, so we'd probably starve. We wouldn't be here at this point. But no, we rented a sailboat. We chartered a boat over in Thailand. So it was a private sailboat. It was like 50 foot or something like that. It had its own captain and its own crew. Basically, we just lived on the boat for a week, and we traveled all the different islands in the bay right by Phuket, Thailand. So we lived on the boat. We snorkeled every day. They cooked us food. Like, honestly, it was the best thing I've ever done. Like, coolest vacation ever for sure.
I love how
Wait,
you say that, the Phuket, Thailand, because that is not how it looks when you look at the name of it.
yeah, I mean, all the things in Thai, it's hard to say. And that's probably the only word I can pronounce. Everything else is like, yeah, I have no clue. It just looks like lines to me.
Did most everybody speak English that you communicated with?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, Phuket's like the southern part of Thailand, so it's super touristy there. So it's actually a spot where a lot of Russians go. So we met mostly Russians, to be honest, and then the Thai people, obviously. But yeah, it
Awesome.
wasn't a problem. I mean, for the most part, you got Google Translate. And if they didn't have somebody that spoke English, like their buddy or something was in the store next to them, they'd be like, "Oh, hey, hang on one second." They'd go get somebody.
Awesome. That's cool, man. Well, I appreciate you posting that stuff on Facebook and Instagram or whatever, just because it was fun to watch. I felt like I was kind of on vacation. We were on vacation in Florida, and it was like 60 degrees out there, that wind blowing right off the ocean. It was not warm at all. And I'm thinking, Luke is over in Phuket, if that's what he wants to call it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was hot. I mean, it was like over 100 most days, and humidity like we have in Iowa in July. And when we were in Australia, it was 120 when we were going through the outback. We rented an RV in the outback, so we were very, very hot most of the time.
That's incredible, man. That's awesome. Well, hey, I want to get into this a little bit. You and I can probably sit here and talk all day long, but you've got appointments to get to, and so do I. So I want to get into a little bit of my family, recreation, occupation, and goals segment here. And, going back, Luke and I went to college together, and Luke was actually the best man in my wedding, and very proud of that, because I look back and I'm amazed at how you have grown this business. You've gone from working at Cartograph as a W-2 employee, talking about wanting to, start investing into properties to now, how many doors are you at?
My wife and I, we have about 60 in Dubuque, and then we have a self storage, which is 171 units, and then we are partners in a 74 unit in Des Moines,
That's incredible, man.
and a house in Florida, I guess.
Oh yeah, that, no big deal down there. Yeah.
That's the worst investment
Well,
out of them all.
so how does your family participate in, the business? So you talked about how they're homeschooled, and Morgan's helping out with the school, with real estate. How does your family interact with all that?
Yeah, so I mean, when we started, it was primarily I did all the business stuff, and my wife stayed home with the kids. They were, we 7 years ago, so they were pretty young at the time. I did all the business stuff. She would help where she could, but I mean, at the beginning, she was so busy with the kids, it didn't really make sense. Over the last few years, she kind of plugged into the business pretty hard for about 2 years, and had some like actual roles that wasn't just helping me. It was like, this is your responsibility. But then when COVID hit, we were actually just before COVID hit, we were planning on leaving for a 1 week a month, and we were going to travel to the US. So we are going to start homeschooling and then basically look at it from like, hey, you want to learn about Washington, D.C.? Let's learn about it for 3 weeks, and then let's go there and let's see everything we just talked about. And then, the long term hope at the time was, travel internationally, do the same idea. But then COVID hit, so it kind of shut it down. So we kind of, I mean, essentially, I retooled the business at that time. I mean, we all had more free time, right? You're at home all the time. So I went to some masterminds and really just got in circles with people of like, because I was working tons of hours. I was doing most of the rehab stuff myself. I had one guy maybe off and on. Like, it was fine. It made money. I mean, everything was fine, but it wasn't like what everybody wants to go. Like, we all want to invest in real estate or quit our W-2s for a variety of reasons. But at the end of the day, it all boils down for freedom. And I want to do what I want when I want. I want to show up to a job. So we kind of built ourselves a job. And so the family plugs in now more so. I run still everything in the business, my roles, but then my wife has actually stepped out of the business. So she focuses only on the homeschooling, and then our day to day lives type of thing. But yeah, I mean, so the kids are homeschooled, which is, they're now to the age, like last summer was probably the first summer we really started plugging them in. So my oldest daughter's 12. You know, she would help us with back end stuff in the business, the admin things, or even just listen to conversations. The kids that, if you work a W-2, you're at work all day, your kid's at school, right? So like, they don't get exposed to the same conversations that we have, and they'd go to the bank with me and hear different financial stuff. And honestly, it hasn't really generated like a ton of conversation, but until just probably in the last 6 to 8 months, now they're like actively interested, all of them. And so like, they're running their own businesses. They're talking about like, how can we do this? I'm like, I don't know, figure out how to make that money. And so like, they my daughter just last week, or actually a couple days ago, she's wanted to go to summer camp, and she's like, it's $380. I'm like, well, you better find it. I'm not going to pay for it. And so she's like baking bread and doing all sorts of sales stuff. So we've kind of intertwined business and homeschooling. That's where they really plug in right now. It's less, they don't have active roles in the business, but they're a part of the business just to see it and experience it, I'd say.
That's awesome, man. Just thinking about Lexi and how the fact that she's 12 just blows my mind. Every time, obviously other people's kids get big and you don't notice it, but just remembering the day that she was born and being there, and then yeah, that's crazy. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah. Um,
But it's cool too. I mean, like, one more thing, like when we were in New Zealand or Australia, I forget where we were, but we were at this house like across from the beach, and walking back, like we were in the middle of the beach, and there was this huge pine cone. It's like, it was huge, and so I just picked it up. So I'm like, oh, this thing doesn't have a place on a beach, like it stuck out. And so I was just playing with it and walking around. My oldest son, he was like, who's 8, he's like, oh, let me see it. I'm like, all right, cool, you can play with it. We got back to the house. I'm like, I bet you for $2 you can't sell that out on the curb to somebody. And he just went out on the curb and he started, like, everybody that went by, and he made signs, and he eventually sold it. Like, the time he sold it, we had 2 people show up. They're like, I want it, I want it. So he made $4. They both gave him money.
that's awesome. So what unexpected ways have has being a real estate investor influenced your life?
um, I mean, honestly, just the freedom that we have now. I mean, you read about it in the books, and like, you listen to podcasts, you watch reels, I mean, all that stuff. It's fine in theory, but like, it's always kind of a level of doubt in the back of your head of like, they did that, but like, can I actually do that? Like, does that actually happen? And I mean, I'm sure everybody's experienced with like the influencers on social media. they're not always what they say they are behind scenes. And so there's always a level of that. So I mean that's kind of the unexpected. Like we hit financial freedom in under 3 years, and like we hit a millionaire net worth, and by the time before I was 30, like that just blows my mind. Like thinking back through that, but like we're 7 years into our career, and like it's only up from here. Like we don't like I don't have to work if I don't want to, and I'm 30. I'll be 34 tomorrow. I mean that's I expected like, oh, someday, maybe in 15, 20 years, like it'll probably get to that point. Like literally 3 to 4 years was like, whoa, what's going on?
Yeah, man.
In a good way.
Yeah, again, I'm just amazed by you. This is I want to know. So one thing I was thinking about as I was thinking about what questions to ask you that would make sense on the podcast where, you know, going back, if you could tell someone today or even looking back 7 years ago when you started this, what do you think was the groundwork you needed to lay in order to do what you're doing now? Or how would somebody in 7 years get to where you are now? What do they need to do?
I think the kind of two things. I mean, I did a lot of the physical work, like rehabs and stuff at the beginning, and that worked for me. That plays into my skills and my, previous, the way I grew up and stuff like that. So don't be afraid to lean into that. I mean, everybody in the gurus and stuff, I like some of the masterminds I went to in the last couple of years, they're like, you got to get out of this. You can't do the day to day. But I'm like, that's what I actually enjoy. So like, who are you to tell me I shouldn't do that in my business? I'm like, let me offload all the stuff that you like that I don't like. Like, what's the difference? As long as I'm doing what I am good at and my special skill. Um, the other thing I think the bigger thing though is like so I work for Cartograph, which is a tech company. So I'm really techie that way. And my brain, I used to take local governments from paper to digital essentially. So I would figure out what their systems are and figure out a way to put it in our software at the time. But I was always kind of geared that way of like, no matter how big I get, I need to have systems in place. And so I had property management softwares when I had 2 or 3 doors, and like my buddies and people in my circle, they were like, "What are you doing? Like, you can run that on a spreadsheet. You can. Why are you paying $4 a month for this app when it's free on Excel?" But I always had in the back of my mind, like, we need to set this up to actually be able to grow. And even what I had set up, like, I still got to like 20, 30 doors, and I hit a huge plateau because I outgrew my systems. And I actually had software at that time, so it was like not having that stuff just kind of sets yourself up for you're gonna have to rework it no matter what, but you're gonna be way behind the 8 ball. And like I was almost behind the 8 ball. I feel like right when you hit that hockey stick, like right when you start going up, that's when everything comes crashing down. So the bigger you can get your foundation at the beginning, it seems like way overkill, but I mean, it's huge in the back end.
That's awesome. So you're saying I need to go out and learn a trade in order to be like you, but if I don't know a trade like you do, I just start buying every property and just plugging money into it, or what's that look like if it's somebody not everybody has the skill set you have. So what would you say to maybe the
Yeah,
everyday
yeah.
investor?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you need the skills necessarily. I mean, you got to figure out what you're good at the end of the day. I mean, I was better at the hands-on stuff to begin with, but if you're not, then are you better at money? Are you better at analyzing deals? Are you better at relationships, networking? Like, I don't really. I'm one of those people that, like, once I know you, or if we're on a one-on-one, I can network with you all day, and like I'll have a good conversation, love it. But you put me in a room with 20 people, I hate that. Like, that's my least favorite thing to do. Like going to all those evening mixers and stuff. Like I mean, now I just don't do it. I'm like, I don't really care.
Yeah.
I don't need to. But you just got to figure out what you're good at, and like if you're good at networking, then put yourself in those rooms 5 days a week. Get in the local RIA groups, get in whatever your business is, and then I mean that's your trade, if you will. You're good at that, so get in that
And all
because that's going to open so many doors.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and all these acronyms and stuff you have in your bio, I'll be honest, I'm not a huge investor head like yourself. So, explain to us, maybe newbies out there, the difference between REI and B triple R. I had to Google that to figure out even how to say that. What is all this stuff? What are you doing?
Yeah, so REI is real estate investing, just kind of slang for that. Burr is going to be you buy the property, you rehab the property, you refinance or you rent, depending. You can flip flop those, but you get it rented up, get some money coming in, and then refinance it at a bank. So, like the Burr method's probably been my bread and butter for the last 3 or 4 years with rates when they were super low. I mean, you could buy around here, at least I was buying houses all day long for 20 to 40 grand. put 30 into them, and then they appraise at 150. So I'd go to the bank and get all my money and take money out actually at day one. So it's just a method. I mean, it's just a strategy to buy because I didn't have 20% down every single deal. And once you get savvy in the real estate investing, like you realize you don't actually need 20%. Like we just bought our storage unit facility last fall, and I think I think we paid 1.4 million for it or something. And I have like less than 60 grand of cash in that deal now. So we essentially bird it with an SBA loan, and then I cash back myself out.
Wow.
So I mean, there's always a way.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just different scales. You can use debt to burr it. You can use your own money, cash, whatever it is.
I told you about a property that came up in like Dexter, Iowa, I think, and you just told me, "Okay, go do it." And I said, "I don't even know what that even looks like." And I was like, "I don't have the money for that." And you're like, "That doesn't matter. You can find a way." And that just goes back to what you're saying. There's always a way to get something done if you really want it. So I love that.
Mm-hmm.
So, can you describe your transition from your first investment to becoming the owner of over 100 different doors?
Oh, lots of personal growth, that's for sure. Yeah, I mean, the transition at a high level, I mean, it was both personal growth, but then also really just a mindset shift of like, if we're going to do this, like I hated real estate for the first year or two. Like we bought some properties that sucked, had all the horror stories that everybody talks about. Like we experienced quite a bit of those in the first year. And I mean, I have pretty thick skin and pretty high stress like tolerance overall, but like I was actually ready to get out. My wife and I, we had conversations of like, maybe this isn't for us. We should just, sell them off, dump them, whatever we got to do and move on. But yeah, I mean, you just transition across those, say the 7 years, like going from this sucks to all right, we're making a few bucks to now I need to change my mindset of like if we're going to actually scale this thing, how do I build more systems and get more people relationships to get everything to grow? And then we went through the transition of made our first hire in the business, and then our second, and then our third, and then our fourth. Like, and so you just all those things like I personally learned a ton and made a lot of mistakes, but we also were very fortunate that the people that I like my very first, honestly, probably three hires, they're all still with me. And so I think it's a Midwest thing. I mean, if most of your listeners are in the Midwest, like we're nice, we're friendly, we care about people. We're not just like you work for me, like go do your job. And that's not how I manage. So there's a level of that of I figured out I'm still learning, but like to this point, like I'm still working on how do you become an effective manager, but also like be nice to them, and like there's that balancing of like you need to get this done, but what's going on in your life? And like I just got back from the trip, like you were saying, and like I right before this call, I was stopped at one of the job sites to talk to the guys. We probably talked business for like 30 seconds, and then we shot the breeze for a half hour. You know, it's just little things like that you pick up the more years you're in stuff. You know, that's at least how I operate. I mean, I'd rather have those people like I pay them well, I take care of them. My wife cooks some random treats and stuff. Like we buy them food, lunch all the time. Like at the end of the day, if I spend an extra 10 grand a year to like take care of these people, I can leave for 3 months, and like they run the show. It's worth 10 grand to me all day
Heck
long.
yeah. So, first off, I'm kind of sad that I haven't gotten any of Morgan's goodies. So I'm gonna have to see if I can put an order in for that. But do you have any?
We can overnight it to
Do
you.
you have any good horror stories? I know you've had a couple of fires and things like that. Do you have anything that really stands out in particular?
Yeah, we've had fires, we've had floods. The one that's yeah, probably the flood. The fires weren't directly my buildings, besides one like kitchen fire, but the flood, I think it was last winter. No, 2 winters ago. I was in Arizona, and I got a call from one of the subcontractor I use. He was renting a little commercial space from me. He's like, "Dude, it's like a Saturday night at like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night." And he's like, "Dude, I just went to the place to get whatever I wanted, and just doing my thing." And he's like, "There's water raining in on the first floor." He's like, "A pipe broke somewhere. I don't know what's going on." Well, it turns out the third floor was vacant, and the typical like just oopses. And I didn't have my systems in place. The gas got turned off. The furnace wasn't on. Blew a pipe. Well, it dumped like 8,000 gallons from the third floor attic all the way down to the basement.
Wow.
So, yeah, like literally the drywall on the second floor below that fell off the walls, off the vertical walls. It had so much water.
That's terrible.
I've never I mean, the demo was super easy. It was on the floor. But I mean, that one, it just goes to show, like, I didn't have my systems in place for like a move out. Did we somebody check that the gas stays on when it's January, in Iowa? So again, then I just put a system in place. Now we have a task on every single move out in our software. If somebody moves out in the summertime, make sure the AC is not running. In the wintertime, make sure the heat's on. So you learn from the horror stories. They suck, but
Yeah.
what do you do?
Failure is the way to success, right? Um,
Hmm.
and talking about systems and whatnot, I kind of remember when you got involved in that chemical cleaning products company. You first got into that, and you were, I think you and Morgan both had to learn how to use a typewriter in order to just understand how the previous business owner was actually running his business, and he was using punch cards for all of his orders. And then you like you took the time to learn it all and understand what he was doing, so that way you could truly understand, how do I get this onto spreadsheets? How do I make this into an organized system that isn't a chaotic manual mess like it is right now?
Yeah, I mean, that's one skill I feel like I've been pretty good at, is like a lot of people, and I have a tendency to want to do it, but I try to really not. Like anytime I buy something new, like the storage units or that business, whatever it is, like they run it however they're running it today, whether it's making money or not, doesn't necessarily matter. But like let it run like that for a month or however long you need, whatever makes sense. But like run it, figure out their systems, and actually get in there, and then learn the process and then tweak it. Like it's so easy, like especially like our generation, where like, oh, we got software, we'll just swap that out day one. But like you think you're replacing the typewriter with the software, but what you don't realize is you're breaking, five more things downstream that you don't realize till a month later. And you're like, oh, that's why you did that. So I always take the time to learn it and then let's tweak it.
Yeah, makes sense. Awesome, man. Well, hey, I want to get into a little bit of this or that. It's a little to understand a little bit more about you personally. Um, so you can expand upon these answers, or you can just give me the quick answer. It's totally up to you. All right. So first one we're getting into is
Cool.
breakfast burrito or pancakes.
Ooh, definitely breakfast burrito.
Oh, really?
Love me some
I
eggs.
totally thought you were going pancakes on that.
I'm a sugar guy, but I don't know. I just something about a burrito in the morning.
Sunrise over the city or stargazing in the country.
Definitely the country. I don't like people.
Best places you've traveled to.
um, we traveled a lot. I'd say Thailand was probably our my favorite overall to date. Beyond that, we went to Dubai in September. That was pretty cool. And then before that, probably Greece in high school would be the next one. Spent a month over there.
Didn't we do that in college, or you did that in college?
Or yeah, not high school, college. I'm sorry. About the same time you were in Portugal.
Yeah. Although I still talk
I wish
about,
I traveled in high school.
yeah, no kidding. I still talk about that Portugal trip to people. I'm like, oh yeah, that was. And then I remember hearing your stories about how you guys were partying all night until 4 or 5 in the morning, and then hopping on the bus and sleeping to the next destination. So
Yeah,
not as cool. But
it was a blur.
reading Nook with a comfy chair or productive home office.
Productive home office for sure. I have the entrepreneurial curse of it's hard to turn it off. Always something to do.
Yep. Do you fall asleep easily or no?
Yeah, I'm a super early morning riser, so I get up at 4 every morning, and then I usually crash about 8 at night. As soon as my head hits the bed, I'm out. Doesn't matter if it's 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock, I'm out.
So when do you sneak in that ice cream? Because I always see you. I know you love your ice cream, and one of my questions here is your favorite ice cream flavor.
um, yeah, my favorite's something with peanut butter. I like vanilla with peanut butter or something like that, or just scoop a big old glob on top. I mean, I usually have it at night. I mean, a lot of times in the summer when we're home, I'll work all day, come home, we eat dinner, have my ice cream, and like literally within an hour, I'm in bed sleeping. Super healthy, eat a bunch of stuff, then go right to sleep.
Yeah, totally. Well, I mean, if you're going to bed at 8 o'clock, don't they say don't eat anything after 8? Well, you're already in bed, so it doesn't matter.
Right. I beat it.
Comedy show with friends or romantic dinner out.
um, Probably a romantic dinner out. We've really retooled our life in the last year, probably 2 years, to like we're a family unit. Like we talked already on this podcast, and just having those close relationships and being gone for 3 months, like our family and my wife, like we're all super close, and so we enjoy spending time together. Honestly, than going out with other people a lot of times. a lot of our acquaintances that we do hang out with are from the church or just business acquaintances. So we have different. I would say we have less just like kick it casual friends than we do like you're from different circles, and we have different reasons why we hang out with all those people. But yeah, not just we don't have too many just like friends to be friends type of thing. Like there's a reason. We at least we came into each other's life for a reason, and then maybe it goes from there type of thing.
I was going to say, man, I'm starting to get hurt. Until that last little point right there, I was a little nervous, man.
You made the cut.
All right, barely. Um, board game. So I guess this kind of maybe answers it, but we'll ask. Board games night or movie marathon with popcorn?
I'm not a game person, so movie marathon with our kids would be probably the answer.
Yeah.
I tell my kids they get one game a year. Like that's all. I hate games. Like it just doesn't intrigue me at all.
Terrible. Cooking a feast or ordering takeout?
um, I don't know. I like cooking. I haven't done it much in the last few years, but I really do enjoy cooking.
Okay. Reading a book or listening to a podcast? Mind you, you're on a podcast, so I better just throw that in there.
I only listen to one podcast. It's your podcast, so
Oh.
I mean, there's that. But no, definitely podcast. I listen to books too, but podcasts I like. There's conversation. You pick up little nuggets that a book has, but it's just different.
Yeah, for sure. Clean freak or organized chaos?
Most people would probably say I'm a clean freak, but I think I'm more organized chaos because I have a lot of stuff going. But I'm a very like, yeah, I'm a tidy person. I would put it that way. But there's so much going on. It's chaos most days.
Sauna or hot tub?
Sauna. We experienced our first sauna, like actually using one in one of the houses we rented on the trip, and so I'm building one at our house right now.
I was wondering if you were going to get one installed. There you go. Love it.
Might as well.
Learn a new skill or perfect an old hobby?
Learn a new skill.
Could see that one coming.
Definitely.
Yeah. Sunrise hot air balloon ride or a sunset sailboat cruise?
Ooh. I'd say the sailboat. I'm more of a water guy than a sky guy.
Okay, well, we got to pause on that because that's not true. You totally. How many times have you skydived?
I've only went the once, just that one time, way
Okay.
back.
Okay. I remember you getting like did your dad do it a bunch? Did he have a log or something?
Yeah.
That's what it
Yeah.
was.
My dad, when he was probably right before he got married or right around that time, he has a lot of jumps.
Yeah, that's crazy.
100 jumps.
Wow.
I would do it again, but I don't want to do it every day type of thing. I have more to lose now.
That's true. No kidding. Local farmers market or convenient grocery store?
Convenience. Yeah. I like the idea of the farmer's market, but I don't want to actually go.
I mean, that's true. I feel like Morgan would enjoy the market though, right?
Yeah, she goes actually quite often in the summer. One of our buildings is like half a block from it. So yeah, when we have parking right at it, so it's kind of nice.
All right, so I want to get into my final segment here, which is the trending topic. And so with the housing market transitioning from a seller's market to more of a balanced market, are you adjusting your real estate investment strategy? And if so, how are you looking to capitalize on the changing market conditions?
Yeah, so I mean, I think we've historically the last couple of years we focused a lot on buying single families, and so we rehab them and keep them as rentals or whatever we're going to do. I'm looking at because rates are kind of maybe coming down. We have a couple quote unquote dogs in our portfolio that I'd like to get rid of, and so I'm watching it close for that to move that money. And I've taken a little bit more of a approach of looking at like maybe new construction or just commercial assets in general. And so yeah, I'm keeping a close tab on it. Not necessarily. I want to keep buying single families because I like that model. My crew, they can just I buy a house, flip them the keys, and I don't really have to talk to them again about it. Um, but so I'm kind of keeping an eye on the market mostly so I can divest a couple things and then buy some commercial. But yeah, I think it's still a solid market. I kind of it's one of those things like when people say there's no deals, like I can't find a deal. Like even today, I'm like, that's not true. Like I looked at actually I've walked 3 properties since I've been home. One yesterday, the day before, and today. Like I've literally been on the ground for less than 3 days in my hometown. I'm like I walk in 3 deals, and I'm like I made an offer on 2 of them this week. So like I just that bothers me when people say there's no deals because there's always a deal. It's just a matter of how you look at it. And so yeah, I mean I think from nationwide, I don't really look at it from a macro standpoint. I mean I look at the markets I'm in. high level, what's going on in the U.S. in general, with all those things. But I think it's always a good time to buy. I don't think that, I wish, like everybody says in every podcast and every book, like, I wish I would have bought more when I was younger.
Yep.
And I wish I wouldn't have sold that. Like, I have those same regrets, but I still, like, you got to sell at some point sometimes, just to, you don't have enough capital at some point. You got to sell and buy something. But I'm very careful to watch the market and buy good deals. That's, I think, very important. The deal has to work not just for you personally, because your life might change, your things, what you have going might change, but like, it works in, maybe 2 or 3 different exit strategies of, I'm going to rent it, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to flip it, or I'm going to start a business. I think it's a dangerous road to go down when people are buying properties for Airbnb, for example. Like, you buy $1 million house in Florida for that. Well, what happens if regulations change, interest rates change, like, you get caught in some way? Like, buy a property that's worth 300 grand that maybe is worth $1 million today, but maybe it's not. But you entered at 300, so, like, you can't lose at the end of the day. You can sit on it and you'll be fine.
Yeah. I love that, man. Well,
Yeah.
sounds like you found ways to diversify your portfolio and, getting into um, the storage units, and now you've got the fix and flips, you've got the long hauls, you've got some warehousing that I know you did in the past. So all that stuff totally makes sense. So if there's people out there that are listening to the show and they want to reach out and ask you questions, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, I can give you my email after this. You can include in the notes. Otherwise, on Instagram, Luke Hoffmann 42, probably the next best way.
And that's Hoffman with 2 N's, right?
Yep. Hoffmann.
All right. Sounds good. Well, thanks, Luke. Hey, man, I appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing a little insight and giving us a little bit more about you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It was fun.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Stay tuned until next week. We're going to have another awesome guest, and have an awesome week.